So as we've covered before, the Daredevil, the Lev Gleason Golden Age Daredevil, was created by writer Don Rico and artist Jack Binder in Silver Streak Comics issue 6. His backstory and costume were revamped by writer-artist Jack Cole for the next 4 issues, where he battled the Claw in a multi-part epic. Don Rico came back as writer-artist to finish out the final 3 installments through issue 17 of Silver Streak Comics. And because issues 14 through 17 haven't been reprinted yet, I read online scans of them, and they are just as crazy and funny as the previous stories. Issue 17 ends with saying that the Daredevil's next adventure would be in The Purple Sword, but issues 18 through 23 no longer had Daredevil stories, and at that point it became the first crime comic. It was renamed Crime Does Not Pay and lasted till issue 147, so I guess The Purple Sword was never printed. Maybe it was never made. The Daredevil spun off into his own comic series after issue 13, and it was called Daredevil Battles Hitler. And that series was created by writer, artist, editor Charles Biro, who stayed with it through its entire run. And we'll pick up where we left off with issue 2. Right here on the cover you can see there are 2 Daredevils, except this one has his colors reversed. Daredevil, world's most daring man of action in the most astounding story ever recorded in a comic book. Daredevil hates crime and evil as passionately as the underworld loves it. Every page a powder keg of furious excitement. So hold tight as this bombshell blasts into action. Wow. This is Professor Pierce, and I think he looks exactly like William Hartnell, the first Doctor Who. So we've got the ancient Egyptian mummy of Princess Sheba that is found, and 30 years later, she's revived back to life and taught the modern ways. Bart Hill, aka the Daredevil, investigates the missing mummy. Professor Pierce tells Sheba her history, and she kills him. Bart dons his Daredevil costume and goes to visit Pierce. Like a zephyr, the sheen of his perfect body steals through the night. Cool. With a magic kiss, Sheba enslaves 5 men, cuts out their tongues, and turns them into criminals. Daredevil beats up all 5 of them, even though they're prize fighters, army officers, detectives. It's crazy. The cops chase them off, and Daredevil follows them to their hideout. Sheba sicks an army of green men on the Daredevil. What the heck are they? Then she accidentally throws her life-giving serum at him and shrivels back into a mummy. Oops! And we get this Daredevil prose story. I didn't find it very interesting. And we start these Daredevil Punch of the Month, where he teaches you different boxing maneuvers. Check this out, a new story starting in this issue called Real American by Dick Briefer. I just wanted to show it because it continues throughout the series for a while, and it has this really interesting character. Look at that, with the skull makeup and the skull horse. Pretty neat. I should read them. And the Claw series continues. I found the story kind of lackluster. I like his little slippers, though. All right, issue 3. So Bart Hill's girlfriend, Tanya Saunders, seems to have killed Judge Reed and Police Chief Scott. I love Bart's posture in this chair. He's just like, ugh. Tanya turns herself in. She goes on trial and is sentenced to death. Chin up, kid. You smug bunch of stuffed cabbages. Is she really guilty? Those witnesses seemed honest enough, but she had no motive. And I don't believe that Tanya had the strength to strangle even a midget. Showing really good emotion in the posture of this illustration. The 0 hour, and Bart Hill is beside himself with grief. I begged the governor, but no soap. It turns out the butler did it. Judas Priest! Why didn't I find this out yesterday? A cool fight scene. Fencing. Wow. And cross-dressing. And then we've got this prose story again, but this is just a recap of when Daredevil fought the Claw. And more boxing advice. And that brings us to issue 4. Check out these characters. So Tanya's friends, Sue and Jeff, are taking the boat out to an uncharted island for their honeymoon and invite her and Bart. Once they're there, they are greeted by the eye patch-wearing Hans Meyer and his oafish manservant. At first, Hans seems to be a hospitable host, but then he attacks Jeff with an axe. Look at this guy! Now, Daredevil fights him, and he puts his spiked belt to use. See, the guy tries to bear hug him and stabs himself. That's awesome! So he weapons up for a big battle. loses his pants, but it's lots of awesome action and intrigue and death. And it ends with this teaser for the next story featuring a mysterious trunk. One last boring prose story, and another boxing tip. But that's all they ever came out with in these hardcovers. But in 5 months from now, at the end of November of 2025, PS Art Books is supposed to publish their second volume of the Pre-Code Classics Daredevil, which will reprint the Daredevil stories from issues 2 through 13. In the meantime, I went ahead and read online scans of those to see how the stories progressed. In issue 5, the mysterious trunk story has been pushed off. Daredevil battles the mob and a group of characters called the Deadly Dozen, which includes the character Sniffer. Issue 6, the mysterious trunk story, has been pushed off again, and Daredevil battles a wolf with a surgically inserted human brain. Issue 7, it's the mysterious trunk story. Absolutely nothing interesting happens. It's a completely forgettable installment, and I couldn't even figure out what the mystery of the trunk was. Issue 8, Daredevil teams up with Sniffer to battle the Nazis, and one panel features a group of boys. Issue 9, Daredevil regales a group of boys about his youth, a fight with a character named The Bolt, and how he met Tanya Saunders. And Sniffer gets his own spin-off series. Issue 10 promotes the new Slap the Jap game on its cover, and inside, Bart Hill joins the military and becomes a pilot. Issue 11, they have a second version of this terrible Slap the Jap game. Bart says that he's a lieutenant, so he must have gotten a college degree at some point before enlisting. The Daredevil finds himself in a combination of the Phantom of the Opera and the Hunchback of Notre Dame stories. Issue 12, Daredevil defeats a circus strongman who is gruesomely killing all of the other circus performers. The Claw gets an origin story. Basically, a couple of ugly people had a kid in Tibet, and he grows up to be a giant monster. And there's an interview with Charles Biro, the writer-artist of the Daredevil comics, the spin-off from Silver Streak. Turns out he was a pro football player, a boxer, a tennis champion, a baseball player, and then got into comics. And then there was issue 13, the origin and first appearance of the Little Wise Guys, that little group of boys, and how they teamed up with the Daredevil. I should like them. It's like the Goonies or maybe the team of kids from Emil and the Detectives, but I don't. I hate them. They ruin the stories. And as far as I'm concerned, that's where the Daredevil comes to an end. Now, the Claw stories continue with more of the fantasy elements that used to be in those old Daredevil series, but he doesn't have a good hero in his stories. They should have stayed together, and it should have went in that vein for many more years, but it didn't. The readers wanted to read about the little kids, the Little Wise Guys. Well, in issue 15, the first of the Little Wise Guys that we were introduced to, Meatball, overexerts himself, gets cold and clammy, collapses, and dies of a heart attack. And then in issue 18, Daredevil tells the Little Wise Guys his origin story, but it's totally different this time. His parents went to Australia where they were attacked by a tribe of pygmies. The pygmy chief wore the Daredevil costume, and his tribe killed Bart Hill's father with 12 spears, and Bart's mother shot herself in the head. The pygmies found baby Bart Hill and raised him. He eventually grew up, fought the chief, won, took his costume, went back to America, and went to college. After that, the Daredevil is barely in the stories at all, and sporadically no longer even appears on the cover sometimes. Now, I showed issue 22, my oldest issue, where my hero, this hobo, is lovingly about to run over the Little Wise Guys with his steamroller. And I showed issue 50, the first issue of the Daredevil I ever got. I found it in a comic box right in the first week of this year. Started this whole journey. Issue 69 was the last to have Daredevil on the cover logo and inside the comic at all. But he did return for a cameo in issues 79 and 80, and I showed issue 80 here, his very last Golden Age appearance. You can see he's no longer in the cover logo, but he is inside to wave goodbye forever. But now I've got some new additions. I got issue 82. Why? Because this cover is so weird. Look, it's got nothing on it. But I got it for another reason. Inside, there's an actual advertisement drawn by the one and only Frank Frazetta before he was painting. This is back when he was still drawing in comics. Look at that. This is from January of 1952, and I got it for $12. And then I got this, issue 134 from October of 1956. This is the final issue of the entire series, and it cost me $14. Still says Daredevil on the cover, but he's been gone for years. 8 years later, Stan Lee would snag the name to reuse for his Marvel character. And check this out, I got this cool sketch card from Fred Hembeck. I got this for $20. It's original Fred Hembeck art. This is a genuine Fred Hembeck sketch card. Daredevil, 1 of 1, 2025, and his own little self-portrait. You may remember Fred Hembeck from the Fantastic Four roast from 1982, or Fred Hembeck Destroys the Marvel Universe from 1989. Pretty neat. And last but not least, I got this 2004 statue from Bowen Studios. There's only 500 of these made. So you can take him off the base, and right there. See, he's called Red Devil because at this point they had brought the Golden Age Daredevil back in some modern comics, and they were playing around with changing his name to avoid, copyright infringement for the Marvel character. This is number 4, it looks like 434 of 500, but whatever. I don't know how many of these still exist, but one of them is in my collection now. Yeah! So from 1986 through 2022, there have been 57 comics that feature the return of the Daredevil, and I have all of them. For the next installment, we'll cover those. Until next time.